The violet inspection lacquer is still wet across the fittings threads when Owen Mercer fires me in front of the airline buyer. I've placed the fitting on a white evidence card beside an approved sample. The differences are small, but they're there. Shallow maker's mark, narrow wrench flats, threads binding in the calibrated gauge. This is counterfeit, I say. Owen wipes my lacquer onto his thumb. You're too inexperienced to judge something this important. Then he tells me to pack my desk. While I'm carrying my box past the conference room, Owen approves the shipment. Marisol Vega, North Star Airlines buyer, slips my marked sample into her case. Certify it personally, she tells him. He signs. Through the glass wall, I can see my sister Dana watching him do it, and I can't understand why she says nothing. My office contains 6 years of a life I didn't realize could fit inside a copier paper box, a coffee mug with a chipped propeller on it, 2 cardigans because Mercer Flight Components operates at either meat locker cold or August attic heat, depending on which vent your desk sits under. A framed photograph of Dana and me at the company picnic 3 summers ago, both of us holding paper plates while Owen pretends to steal a deviled egg from mine. I turn the photograph face down before I put it in the box. Paulie Gant, our warehouse lead, stands in my doorway with his hands hooked into the pockets of his work pants. Paulie is 58, built like a retired refrigerator and incapable of entering a room without looking as if someone has accused him of something. He's serious? He asks. Owen rarely fires people recreationally. You want me to get your tools? My inspection tools are company property. My loop, my thread gauges, my digital micrometer, the little brass pick I use to check burrs. Even the gray foam drawer inserts are labeled with Mercer inventory numbers. My toolbox stays. I know that. Paulie shifts his weight. I meant your own stuff. He knows what I meant. He's giving me room to be angry without making me admit I need it. My lunch is in the refrigerator. The yogurt with the dates written on top? The dates are expiration dates. I thought it was a threatening countdown. Despite myself, I laugh. It comes out wrong, one sharp sound, but Paulie accepts it. He brings me the yogurt, my denim work apron, and the red mechanical pencil I keep behind the thermal label printer. He does not bring the 3 counterfeit fittings still sitting in the inspection cage. I would never ask him to. The glass conference room is 30 feet from my door. Owen remains at the table with Marisol and North Star's supplier quality engineer, a quiet man named Vincent Cho, who has spent most of the morning writing on a yellow legal pad. Dana sits against the wall with her laptop open. She runs finance and human resources, which means my sister has just watched her husband fire me and is now responsible for making sure he used the correct form. Owen catches me looking. He says something to Marisol, rises, and pulls the conference room door closed. The glass makes the gesture almost ridiculous. I can still see all of them. I just can't hear what they're saying. 6 years ago, Owen had opened that same door and offered me a job. I'd been inspecting surgical instruments at a plant outside Allentown, measuring jaws on laparoscopic clamps, while a supervisor half my age called every micrometer a little measuring wrench. Mercer had just lost its quality manager to a turbine company in Ohio. Owen needed someone who understood machined parts, traceability, and the difference between documentation that protected a customer and documentation that only protected a company. "You're wasted where you are," he'd said. Dana had kicked him under our mother's dining table. He corrected himself. "They're wasting your skills where you are." Owen could be arrogant, but he was often right. That combination had carried him farther than charm alone would have. Mercer Flight Components wasn't a manufacturer despite the name. We were a stocking distributor in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, operating out of a low brick building that had once housed a commercial laundry. We bought aerospace hardware from approved manufacturers and resold it to repair stations, regional carriers, and 2 major airlines. Most of our inventory was visually unimpressive. Fittings, clamps, valve bodies, fasteners, sleeves, and unions sealed in transparent bags with labels that cost pennies and paperwork that could decide whether an airplane left the ground. Owen understood scarcity. If an airline needed a discontinued fitting by Friday and Mercer found 27 of them in Tulsa, Owen remembered the broker's wedding anniversary, the courier's preferred route, and which North Star manager would approve a split shipment. During the supply chain shortages, he found parts nobody else could find. Customers began calling him before they called the larger distributors. I was the person who told him whether those parts were what the labels claimed. For 5.5 years, that arrangement worked. Then one of our repair station customers entered bankruptcy, owing us $700,000. Our bank shortened the credit line. 2 manufacturers changed their minimum order terms. North Star's emergency request arrived in the middle of it all. 400 high-pressure hydraulic unions used in landing gear service. Delivery required in 10 days. The order was worth enough to make our cash flow problem stop looking like a crisis and start looking like a rough quarter. The fittings were discontinued, but Owen found them through Silver Basin Logistics, a Nevada broker none of us had used before. New old stock, he told me when the boxes arrived. Factory sealed. They were not factory sealed. They came in 4 brown cartons inside 1 gray courier tote. Each fitting was bagged separately, but the bags had inconsistent heat seals. The labels showed the logo of Cavendish Fluid Systems, an approved manufacturer, along with lot number CFS-17K41. The paperwork included a certificate of conformance dated 3 years earlier. Paulie had wheeled the tote to receiving inspection at 8:12 on Monday morning. I remember the exact time because he'd interrupted my attempt to revive the coffee maker with a butter knife. "If I die fixing this," I'd told him, "tell OSHA I was brave. I'll tell them you defeated a machine worth $18. The first fitting looked good until I threaded it into the GO gauge. A genuine part should turn smoothly by hand until it seats. This one caught after 2 rotations. I backed it out, cleaned both surfaces, checked the gauge's calibration sticker, and tried again. Same drag. Same point. I measured the wrench flats. Undersized by 9/1000ths of an inch. Not enough to announce itself to someone pulling stock for shipment, but enough that a wrench under load could round the corners. Under 10 power magnification, the laser-etched maker's mark looked pebbled and shallow. I opened a genuine fitting from an older Cavendish lot and set them side by side. That was when I reached for the violet lacquer. The habit came from Ray Bostick, a toolmaker who had trained me during my first machine shop job. Ray kept 3 bottles of inspection lacquer lined above his bench, green for setup, orange for rework, violet for anything somebody might later pretend had never been in his hands. "Across the part and the card," he used to say. "People argue with paperwork. They have a harder time arguing with a broken line." I painted 1 thin stripe across the first full thread, then continued it onto the white evidence card beneath it. I wrote the date, time, purchase order number, and my initials. Then I photographed the fitting next to the brass thread gauge and repeated the check on 10 more pieces. All 11 had the same shallow mark. 7 had the same thread drag. Everyone had a tiny crescent near the base of the wrench flat like a clipped thumbnail. A cutter skip, probably, the kind of flaw a production tool repeats until someone changes or resets it. I placed 3 fittings in the locked inspection cage, moved the rest of the shipment to quarantine, and called Owen. He came down in 4 minutes. "You opened all 4 cartons?" he asked. "Samples from all 4. And?" "I'm rejecting the lot pending authentication." He looked at the fitting on my evidence card. He did not touch it. "Based on what?" I showed him the measurements, the thread gauge results, the marking differences, and the repeated cutter skip. Owen listened. That was one of the reasons he could be dangerous in a disagreement. He didn't interrupt when facts were being presented. He stored them. "Could Cavendish have used a secondary production line?" he asked. "Then Cavendish can confirm it." "They won't confirm anything quickly. They've been acquired twice. We have to contact them. We have North Star coming Wednesday. Then we should contact them Monday. His mouth tightened, but only for a second. Run a larger sample. I already did 11. Run 20. I can run 40. The paperwork is still wrong. What's wrong with it? The distributor named on the original certificate wasn't in business on the certificate date. That landed. I saw it. Owen picked up the certificate and read the name again. Halcyon Aero Supply. Then he gave me a small, almost friendly smile. Let me handle the document trail. By Tuesday afternoon, he had a letter from Silver Basin stating that Halcyon's remaining assets had been acquired by a holding company, which explained the dates. He also had an email from someone claiming to be a former Cavendish sales representative, who said variations in laser mark depth were normal. Neither document authenticated the lot. I kept the quarantine in place. Wednesday morning, 2 hours before North Star arrived, Owen moved the review from my inspection area to the glass conference room. He said it would be more comfortable for the visitors. He also asked Brent Morrow, our newest quality inspector, to prepare the shipment release packet. Brent was 33 and had come from automotive receiving. He was careful, eager, and still afraid that every silence from management was a performance review. He stopped beside my desk with the packet tucked against his chest. Owen said you were tied up with the valve body returns. I'm not. Okay. Did he tell you the lot is quarantined? He said the documentation issue was resolved. It isn't a documentation issue. Brent glanced toward Owen's office. I'm just getting the packet together. You're being asked to release 400 parts. He said he'll sign it. That was Owen's first adaptation. He stopped trying to persuade me and started building a route around me. North Star arrived at 10. Marisol Vega wore a navy suit with scuffed brown loafers and carried a black, hard-sided sample case that looked more suited to camera equipment than airline hardware. Vincent Cho asked for our calibration register before anyone offered him coffee. Marisol was warm until she wasn't. She asked Polly about receiving seals, joked with Dana about Owen's inability to provide a short answer, and remembered the name of a machinist she had met once during an audit. Then she saw the red quarantine status on the receiving screen. "What's on hold?" she asked. Owen answered before I could. "An internal dimensional question. We've resolved it." "No," I said. "We haven't." The room changed by a degree. Owen asked me to bring in my sample. I brought the evidence card, the approved comparison piece, the brass gauge, and my inspection report. That was how I ended up with wet violet lacquer on the table, Owen's thumb stained purple, and my sister staring at her laptop while he fired me. Now, in my emptied office, Dana finally comes through the glass door. She walks past Polly without looking at him and closes my door behind her. "What did you think would happen?" she asks quietly. I set the chipped mug into my box. "I thought the parts would stay quarantined. You called them counterfeit in front of the customer, because I believe they are. You couldn't say suspect? You couldn't say non-conforming?" "I said both of those things on Monday." Dana presses 2 fingers against the bridge of her nose. She has done that since we were in our 20s, usually before explaining why somebody else's bad decision has become her emergency. "The bank reviews our line next month," she says. "If North Star rejects this order, so that's why you sat there?" Her hand drops. "I sat there because anything I said would have made it worse." "For who?" She looks at the photograph lying face down in my box. She knows exactly which one it is. "I need your badge," she says. I unclip it and place it in her palm. She closes her fingers around it. "Owen wants you to sign a separation agreement, 6 weeks' salary and continued health coverage through the quarter." "What does he want in return?" Standard non-disparagement language, meaning I can't tell North Star why I was fired. It means you don't make accusations you can't prove. The words sound borrowed. Dana hears it too. I lift the box. My report is in the quality system. My photographs are attached. Her face changes, not much. Just enough. "You attached photographs?" "Monday morning." "To the permanent receiving record?" That's where inspection photographs go. Dana looks toward the conference room. Owen is still inside with Marisol and Vincent, one hand resting on the signed shipment certificate. When she turns back, she is my sister again for half a second. "Leah," she says, "don't log in from home." I've never logged in from home. Good. It doesn't sound like advice, it sounds like a warning. At 5:43 that evening, my company email shuts off. At 6:10, Brent's name replaces mine as approver on the North Star order. At 7:02, the quarantine entry changes. Reason for hold. Identity of sample uncertain. The next line appears under Owen's credentials. Suspect fitting may have originated from miscellaneous scrap stored in inspection area. I read it twice on the notification Dana's quality system automatically sent to my personal email because no one had removed my external alert address yet. Then I opened the photograph I took Monday morning. The counterfeit fitting lies across its white card, the violet stripe unbroken between metal and paper. Behind it sits the open gray courier tote. The seal number is visible. So is the corner of the silver basin packing list. And in the polished face of my brass thread gauge, small but clear, is Owen's reflection watching me mark the sample. I save the notification as a PDF, then take screenshots of the audit entry and the photograph. The quality portal times out before I can open anything else. A minute later, the external alert stops working. I sit at my kitchen table with my phone in one hand and the separation agreement in the other. Dana sent it through an electronic signature service at 7:16. Owen has already signed. His name sits in a neat, blue script beneath 11 paragraphs of language that would buy my silence for less than 2 months of groceries and mortgage payments. My phone rings. Dana's name fills the screen. I let it ring until voicemail takes it. Then she calls again. "What?" I answer. "Did you access Mercer's system?" The system emailed me. "Did you download company records?" I saved a notification addressed to me. There's a pause. I can hear keys clicking on her end. "Delete it." "No, Leah." He rewrote the inspection record. Owen clarified it. He accused me of taking scrap into a customer review. He said the source of that one sample can't be confirmed. It came from the silver basin shipment. He watched me remove it. I wasn't in receiving. That's convenient. The keys stop. Dana lowers her voice. "Sign the agreement. Take the 6 weeks. Give this a day to cool down." He signed an airworthiness certification on parts he knows I rejected. He signed a supplier certificate. Don't make it sound like he personally installed something on an airplane. That is classic Dana. Narrow the sentence until she can live inside it. What did Marisol do after I left? North Star asked for additional records. Did they take the shipment? They put pickup on hold. The pressure in my chest loosens slightly. For how long? "I can't discuss customer business with you. You called me." "I called because your mother is still employed here and because I'm trying to stop this from becoming uglier than it already is." There it is. Not a threat exactly. Dana would call it context. Leave Mom out of it. I am trying to. No, you're pointing at her from across the room. She processes vendor statements 2 mornings a week, Leah. She's going to notice you've been fired. Then tell her the truth. Which truth? Yours or my husband's? I look at Owen's reflection in the brass gauge. Enlarged on my laptop screen, his face curves in the polished metal. The distortion makes his eyes look farther apart, his jaw narrower. "The fittings," I say. Dana hangs up. My house is a narrow brick twin with floors that slope toward the shared wall. I bought it 4 years ago because the basement was dry enough for a mill, and the detached garage had a real electrical panel. The kitchen faucet squeaks when I turn it. The refrigerator cycles on. Across the alley, someone lowers a garage door with a metallic groan. Ordinary sounds become rude when your life has just changed. I carry the agreement into the basement. The milling machine stands under fluorescent lights, green paint chipped along the table, its cast iron body heavier than everything else I own. It's a 1978 Bridgeport I spent 2 years restoring. New belts, cleaned ways, rebuilt head. Ray Bostic found it for me after a cabinet shop closed and helped me move it with equipment he claimed had probably killed fewer than 3 men. I switch on the work light, but not the machine. On the shelf above it are 3 bottles of lacquer: green, orange, violet. The violet bottle is nearly empty. I turn it between my fingers and remember Ray tapping an evidence card with one nicotine-yellowed fingernail across the part and the card. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. Dana says you and Owen had a disagreement. Come for breakfast tomorrow. I type 3 different answers and delete them all. Finally, I send, I'll bring the bagels. At 8 the next morning, Mom has already made eggs. She lives in a condominium complex designed for people who believe beige is a form of security. Her dining table is covered with Mercer vendor statements, each clipped to a payment stub. She works Tuesdays and Thursdays from home because the office stairs bother her hip, and Owen once told her family shouldn't have to choose between dignity and payroll software. That was the kind of thing Owen said when he meant it. It was also the kind of thing that made opposing him feel like vandalizing your own memories. Mom points her spatula at me. Dana said bagels. I made eggs because bagels are surrender. To what? Time. She has never answered a simple question when a complicated answer is available. I put the bag on the counter. Did Dana tell you I was fired? She said you were separated. From Mercer, not the church. I know what separated means. She turns off the burner and studies me. Her white hair is cut in the same blunt bob she's worn since she decided salons were wasting her Saturdays. Did you embarrass Owen in front of a customer? He fired me in front of the customer. That isn't what I asked. Yes, I embarrassed him. Were you right? I believe I was. Belief is for eggs before you crack them. I almost smile. The measurements were wrong. The markings were wrong. The documentation doesn't authenticate the lot. She divides the eggs between 2 plates. And if you're right, the parts can't ship. And if you're wrong, I'm still entitled to reject them until their identity is established. Mom sits across from me. That sounds like a work answer. It is. I asked what happens to you. I pull apart a bagel I don't want. If I'm wrong, Owen tells every aerospace distributor in eastern Pennsylvania that I called genuine inventory counterfeit during a customer review. And if you're right, he'll say I damaged the company before giving him time to fix it. Mom eats 1 bite of egg and chews slowly. You two always did speak the same language, she says. You just use different verbs. She doesn't ask me to sign the agreement. That would be easier. Instead, she gathers the vendor statements into a stack and taps their edges against the table. Dana has asked me to take a few weeks off. He got to you already, your sister asked. On his behalf? Most of marriage is doing things on someone's behalf and pretending you thought of them yourself. Are you being paid? For now. The 2 words sit between us. I leave with the unsigned agreement still in my bag. By noon, North Star has frozen the order. I learned that from Paulie, who calls from his truck during lunch. They locked the toad in your cage, he says. My cage? The inspection cage. Don't get territorial now. Who has the key? Brent and Owen. They changed the combination on the key's safe. Did North Star ask them to? They asked for the lot to be segregated. Owen took creative direction. What happened to the 3 samples? One's with the buyer, 2 are in the cage. There were 3 in the cage. Silence. Polly. I only saw 2 when Brent did the count. Did you tell him? I told him your paperwork said 3. He said 1 was used for testing. What testing? He didn't know. Owen has removed a sample less than 24 hours after suggesting I might have introduced one from scrap. Are there cameras on receiving? Camera's been dead since February. I put in 2 maintenance requests. I remember. Owen said he was getting a quote. Paulie exhales hard through his nose. I need to go. They're doing a meeting after lunch. Mandatory, cheerful faces. Don't risk your job for me. I'm not. I'm risking it because I hate meetings. He disconnects. I spend the afternoon making a chronology. No adjectives. Dates, times, actions, witnesses. When I reach the customer review, I write Owen wiped lacquer from threads with right thumb, then stare at the sentence until it looks absurd. At 4, the first recruiter returns my call. Marnie Feld has placed quality managers in the Lehigh Valley for 15 years. She once told me my resume had an emotionally unavailable font, then got me 3 interviews anyway. I heard you left Mercer, she says. News travels. It rents a car. Did Owen call you? No, a client did. They're asking if I know someone who became available unexpectedly. That could be good. It could. The pause tells me it isn't. What did you hear? That you stopped a major shipment over a cosmetic marking variation and escalated in front of the customer. It wasn't cosmetic. I'm not taking sides. You called me. I'm telling you what's in the air. Give me the clean version I can repeat. I do. Marnie listens without interrupting. Can you prove counterfeit? She asks. Not without material testing or manufacturer confirmation. Do you have the part? North Star has one. So North Star can prove it. You can prove you had concerns. The distinction hurts because it's accurate. I can get you interviews outside aerospace, she says. Medical devices, industrial valves. Owen doesn't get to push me out of the field. That sounds satisfying. Satisfaction pays badly. I'll send you an updated resume. Change the font. After we hang up, I search for Cavendish Fluid Systems. The original company was absorbed into a British conglomerate. Then its fittings division was sold to an American manufacturer in Connecticut. The old technical support number routes me through 3 menus and a receptionist who transfers me to an archive mailbox. I leave the lot number, part number, certificate date, and my contact information. No one calls back. The next morning, an overnight envelope arrives from Mercer. Inside is a printed copy of my separation agreement, an exit checklist, and a letter signed by Dana stating that my access to all company systems has been terminated. There is also a padded mailer holding my red mechanical pencil. I turn it in my hand. My name is scratched along the barrel, but I never took it from the office. Dana sent it anyway. At the bottom of the envelope, beneath the forms, is a sticky note in her handwriting. You forgot this. The pencil's eraser cap is loose. I twist it off. Inside the hollow barrel is a narrow roll of thermal label paper. The print has faded to gray, but the text is legible. Courier Tote 884103, Seal 7719624, Carton Silver Basin, Logistics Received 0812. Polly must have printed it when the shipment arrived. Dana must have found it, or asked for it, and hidden it in the one object Owen would dismiss as worthless. I call her. She sends me to voicemail. I call again. This time, she rejects it. A minute later, a text appears. I sent you a pencil. That is all I sent you. I photograph the label, place it in an envelope, and slide it into the fireproof box where I keep my deed and tax records. Then I put the pencil back together. At 3:30, Cavendish's successor company finally returns my message. The woman identifies herself as an archive coordinator. Her tone is cautious and bored in a way I find reassuring. We located the lot format, she says. CFS-17K41 would have been assigned to the Allentown production line. Would have been? We can't confirm that the lot itself was assigned, only that the prefix is consistent with that location. Can you tell me what it contained? Not without a formal trace request from the current holder of the certificate. That would be Mercer. Or the end user. North Star Airlines. Yes, I write her name and extension beside my chronology. One more question. When did the Allentown line close? Keyboard clicks. November, 4 years ago. I look at the certificate date. That's impossible. What is? The certificate says the fittings were manufactured 9 months after the line closed. Her boredom disappears. Could you repeat the lot number? I do. This time the silence lasts longer. Ms. Calder, do you physically possess one of these fittings? North Star Airlines does. Then North Star should submit the trace request directly. I'm going to give you a case number. When the call ends, I email Marisol for the first time since the review. I keep it short. I give her the case number, the archive coordinator's contact information, and one sentence about the production line closure. She answers 12 minutes later. Thank you. Preserve your original records. Do not contact Mercer on North Star's behalf. Below that is a calendar invitation for a remote interview with North Star supplier Quality. Before I can accept, another email arrives. This one is from Owen. Its subject line is Notice to Cease Use of Confidential Information. He accuses me of retaining proprietary records, contacting Mercer's suppliers under false authority, and interfering with a customer relationship. He demands the return or destruction of every company document in my possession by 5 o'clock Friday. Attached is a new version of the receiving report. My photographs are still there, but the captions have changed. Sample provided by former employee. Source not verified. The image with the brass gauge has been cropped so tightly that Owen's reflection is gone. He noticed the picture, and now he knows exactly what it proves. I forward Owen's email to a labor attorney Marnie once recommended, then spend 20 minutes deleting everything I want to say back. The attorney's name is Elise Porter. Her voicemail warns that she does not accept emergency matters through voicemail, email, text, social media, or messages conveyed by well-meaning relatives. I leave my name and explain that I have been fired after rejecting aircraft parts. She calls before dinner. Do you have the parts? She asks. No. Did you take company documents? I saved records that were emailed to my personal address before my access was terminated. Answer only the question I ask. I close my eyes. No, I didn't take documents. Good. Did you sign anything? No. Better. Can you afford me? Probably not. Best answer you've given so far. Elise charges me for 1 hour and uses 43 minutes. She tells me not to destroy anything, not to access anything, not to contact Mercer employees for evidence, and not to describe the dispute online. Can I speak to North Star? If they contact you, yes, stick to what you observed. Your expertise does not turn assumptions into facts. Owen changed the photo caption. You have the original alert? Yes. And proof it was sent to you automatically? Yes. Then preserve both. His attorney can argue about what they mean. You're not going to send him a terrifying letter? I can send him an expensive letter. Terror is extra. She agrees to review the separation agreement and Owen's demand. Her final instruction is not legal. Eat something. Angry people confuse hunger with courage. The North Star interview begins at 9 the next morning. Marisol is on screen with Vincent Cho and a woman from corporate quality named Serena Webb. Serena has silver-framed glasses and the calm expression of someone accustomed to hearing two people call each other liars in technical language. They record the meeting with my consent. Vincent asks me to describe receiving inspection from the moment Polly brought in the tote. He wants exact times, sampling quantities, instrument numbers, and where I stood when I opened each carton. When I say the camera over receiving was not functioning, he asks when I last reported it. February 6th and March 19th. Do you have copies? No, they were internal maintenance requests. Marisol says nothing. The black sample case sits on a credenza behind her. Serena asks, why did you apply lacquer to one sample but not all of them? It wasn't acceptance lacquer. It was an identity mark. Is that in Mercer's procedure? No. So it was your personal practice? Yes. Why? Because small parts get moved. Accidentally? Sometimes. Serena's face remains still. I explain the unbroken stripe, the evidence card, and the photograph. I give them the courier tote and seal numbers without saying where I got them. When Vincent asks how I remember the seal, I tell him it is visible in my original photograph. That is true. It just isn't the whole truth. Marisol finally speaks. Did Mr. Mercer know you were marking the sample? He watched me do it. Did he ask you to stop? No. Did he object to the quarantine before Wednesday's review? He asked me to expand the sample. Then he tried to resolve the document trail. Tried? He provided documents. They didn't authenticate the parts. Vincent lifts a clear bag into frame. Inside is a fitting with a bright, even maker's mark. Mercer sent this sample to Tri-County Metallurgical, he says. Their report identifies the correct alloy and acceptable hardness. Is that my marked sample? No. Does it have the crescent cutter skip? He turns the bag. Even through video, I can see the wrench flat is smooth. That didn't come from the Silver Basin lot. Serena leans closer. How can you state that? All 11 pieces I inspected had the cutter skip. 11 out of 400. Yes, so you can state that it did not come from the 11 you inspected. I hate her precision because I trust it. Yes, I say. That's what I can state. When the interview ends, North Star gives me 7 days to submit anything else. They will not share their internal testing schedule or allow me access to the sample without a formal arrangement. By lunchtime, Owen's attorney sends Elise a letter claiming my technical accusations are unsupported and commercially damaging. Attached is the Tri-County report and a sworn statement from Brent that Owen gave him a fitting identified as representative of the questioned lot. Identified by whom is not included. Brent does not answer when I call. I leave no message. That afternoon, Mom's health coverage ends. She shows up at my house carrying a grocery bag full of office supplies. Mercer apparently considered hers. 2 staplers, a calculator, a box of binder clips, and a ceramic pencil cup shaped like a boot. They eliminated my position, she says. You worked 8 hours a week. Apparently those were the 8 hours holding the company back. I take the grocery bag. Did Dana do it? She delivered the message. Owen made the decision. I'm sorry. It was a silly little job. You liked it. I like knowing where I was expected on Tuesdays. She follows me into the kitchen and sees the Bridgeport sale listing open on my laptop. You're selling the mill. I'm considering it. You spent 2 years fixing that thing. I need an independent metallurgist. North Star has metallurgists. North Star is determining whether it can accept the shipment. I need someone who can evaluate my findings and defend the analysis if Owen attacks it. Mom puts both hands on the back of a chair. What will it cost? Less than the mill, more than I have. I have savings. No. Your refusal would be more moving if I hadn't just been fired from a ceremonial bookkeeping job. No. She looks toward the basement door. Machines are patient. People think that means machines don't leave. It's mine to sell. I know. She leaves the subject alone, which is how I know she thinks I'm making a mistake. Ray comes to inspect the Bridgeport the next morning because I refuse to sell it without telling him. He circles it once, rubs a thumb along the table and asks, "What fool are you planning to sell this to?" Whichever fool brings money. You put the new belt on crooked. You installed the belt. I was younger then. That was 18 months ago. Time is aggressive at my age. He listens while I explain what I need the money for. He does not tell me to keep the machine. That would let me dismiss him as sentimental. Instead, he asks to see the photographs. I enlarge the fitting on my laptop. Ray puts on glasses, takes them off, cleans them with his shirt, and puts them on again. Zoom there. The cutter skip. Back farther. The undercut below the first thread. I enlarge it until the pixels soften. Ray taps the screen. That's not an aerospace tool path. Why? See how the relief runs out wide? Tools shaped for a pipe union. Fast cycle, generous clearance. Aerospace print would call that radius tight because you need the wall. He studies the crescent near the wrench flat. I've seen this. Where? Keystone Process Controls. I know the name. They made commercial plumbing and food processing hardware in Reading until they failed. You worked there? Consulting. Last year before they closed, they were tearing cutters because the bar feeder was shoving stock off center. Left that little kiss on the flats. You're certain? I'm old. That's different from certain. He asks for the approved sample photograph, then puts both images side by side. Keystone made something close to this for washdown systems. Same basic body, different steel, loose thread class, wider undercut. You could polish it, laser a mark, put it in a bag. Could their old inventory still exist? Everything exists somewhere after an auction. Ray calls a former Keystone maintenance supervisor named Luis Ortega. He puts the call on speaker and tells Luis he is looking at a fitting with the crescent scar. Luis answers, "Those cursed unions?" I stop breathing. He remembers 2 pallets of unfinished stainless unions that were excluded from Keystone's customer inventory because the threads failed gauges. A liquidation company bought the pallets with scrap tooling. Luis emails Ray photographs he took for the auction manifest. The unions sit loose in blue bins. Even under warehouse lighting, the crescent marks are visible. The liquidation buyer is Desert Asset Recovery of Reno. Silver Basin Logistics uses the same Reno Street address. It does not prove Silver Basin finished or marked the parts. It gives us an origin worth testing. Ray's contact at a small materials laboratory agrees to perform alloy screening, hardness, dimensional verification, and microscopic comparison. The lab is independent, but Northstar must authorize release of its retained sample directly to them. The estimate is painful. The Bridgeport sells 2 days later to a woman opening a prototype shop in Easton. She runs her hand over the rebuilt head with the same tenderness I once did. "You sure?" she asks. "No," I say. She waits. "But you can take it." After the riggers leave, 4 rectangular impressions remain in the basement dust where the machine's feet stood. The room looks larger and worth less. I pay the laboratory deposit. Northstar approves the transfer under a joint evidence protocol. Marisol places the violet-marked fitting and card into a tamper-evident bag, while Vincent records the seal. The lab photographs the bag on arrival and calls me before breaking it. For 3 days, nothing happens. On the 4th, Dana comes to my house. She looks exhausted and furious. She is carrying the black leather tote Owen gave her for their 10th anniversary, but the zipper is broken and one handle is wrapped with gray tape. "You can't keep calling employees," she says before I invite her in. "I called Brent once." "You called Polly." "Polly called me." Owen pulled his phone records. "His personal phone? Company pays a stipend. Owen says that gives him the right." "It doesn't." "Congratulations, you're correct again." She steps past me into the kitchen. I make coffee because neither of us knows what else to do with our hands. Dana does not take off her coat. "Why did you send the receiving label?" I ask. I send a pencil. "Mom lost her coverage." "I know." "You processed it." "I know." I set her mug down too hard. Coffee jumps over the rim. Dana stares at the spill. "He borrowed against the house," she says. I stop reaching for a towel. "How much?" "Enough that losing Northstar takes the house." "Did you know?" "I signed the papers. I didn't know he had already extended the company guarantee to cover the Silver Basin purchase. That's not the same thing. It is when the same person signs both." She opens the tape tote and removes a thin folder. Inside are payment confirmations, a courier invoice, and the original internal receiving summary. The courier invoice lists 1 sealed tote, 4 cartons, total weight 96 pounds, no separate samples, no miscellaneous scrap. "The Silver Basin invoice was paid to a logistics company," Dana says. "Same bank account Owen used for a shortage buy 18 months ago. Was that inventory bad too?" "No, it was legitimate and late. That's why he trusted them." That makes more sense than a hidden conspiracy. It also makes me sadder. "When did he know?" I ask. Dana looks at me. "I think he didn't know when he ordered. I think he knew when you showed him the false certificate. He could have stopped. He thought he could replace the lot after Northstar paid. With what? I don't know. Something real. Something late. Owen always believes time will become more reasonable if he talks to it long enough." She pushes the folder toward me. "Take photographs. I have to bring these back. If you give me these, he'll fire you too." He removed my bank access yesterday. Today he asked me to sign a statement saying your sample could have come from scrap. What did you say? I asked him to show me the scrap log. Despite everything, I laugh. Dana does too, once, and then covers her mouth. My phone rings on the counter. The laboratory number appears. The metallurgist does not sound excited. Competent people rarely do when the news is bad. The retained sample is not the specified alloy, he says. It's 304 stainless. The drawing requires precipitation, hardened 17-4. Dana closes her eyes. There's more, he says. Hardness is below requirement. Thread profile is out of tolerance, and the manufacturer marking was applied after the surface finish. We've compared the microscopic tool marks to the auction images you supplied. Do they match? I'll state that the manufacturing characteristics are consistent. For identity, you'll want the original manufacturer and chain of custody records. When will the written report be ready? Tomorrow morning. Dana grips the edge of the table. Owen calls her while the metallurgist is still speaking. His name lights her screen. She lets it ring. Then an email arrives from Marisol. North Star is convening a formal supplier review on Monday. Owen must bring the original certificate, the tested Mercer sample, all receiving records, and the personally signed certification. My attendance is required. Marisol adds one final line. I will bring the sample I retained. Dana leaves the folder on my table long enough for me to photograph every page. When she puts it back in her tote, her hands are steady. Are you going home? I ask. I don't know. You can stay here. That would look like I chose a side. You did choose a side. She pulls the broken zipper together. I chose not to lie on a statement. Apparently that counts as a side now. At the door, she stops. He'll say he was trying to save everyone. I know. He'll believe it. I know that too. Sunday afternoon, Owen calls from a number I don't recognize. Dana won't answer me, he says. Then stop calling her. This isn't about our marriage. It became about your marriage when you asked her to sign a false statement. He breathes into the phone. I can picture him in his office, tie loosened, one hand pressed flat against the desk as if the building might tilt without him. What did she give you? The truth is cheaper if you tell it early. I'm not playing word games, Leah. Neither am I. I have 42 people walking into that building tomorrow expecting jobs. Polly has been there 21 years. Brent just bought a condo. You think North Star cares what happens to any of them? Did you know the certificate was false when you signed the shipment release? I knew you had questions. I rejected the lot. You exceeded your authority in front of the customer. I was the quality manager. You were an employee. There it is. The sentence beneath every other sentence. He softens his voice. I can revise the separation package. 12 weeks, health coverage for you and your mother through the end of the year, neutral reference. You withdraw your claim that the parts are counterfeit and state that your inspection was inconclusive. The lab confirmed 304 stainless. Silence. I hear a chair creak. You paid for testing? Yes. With what? My mill. The next breath catches before he can control it. Owen helped Ray move the Bridgeport into my basement. He spent an entire Saturday complaining about my staircase and showed up the next morning with a precision level I couldn't afford. You sold that machine for this? I sold it because you fired me for doing the job you hired me to do. The lab could be wrong. Come tomorrow and show them how. His voice turns flat again. You have no idea what you're destroying. I know exactly what the fitting is made of. I end the call. Elise meets me in North Star's regional procurement office Monday morning, carrying a leather portfolio and a paper cup large enough to require its own seatbelt. You don't need me to talk, she says. You need me to prevent other people from making your silence sound like agreement. That's worth your hourly rate? Almost nothing is worth my hourly rate. The review room has no glass walls. A long laminate table fills most of it, and the air smells faintly of burnt coffee and carpet adhesive. Marisol sits at one end with her black sample case on the floor beside her. Vincent has his yellow legal pad. Serena Webb has 2 binders arranged square to the table. North Star's director of maintenance supply, a man named Eric Lawson, joins by video. Owen arrives with Brent and an attorney I recognize from local business events. Dana does not come. Brent looks at me once, then studies the table. Owen wears the navy suit from the customer review. The violet stain is gone from his thumb. Serena begins with scope. North Star is evaluating the identity of the Silver Basin lot, Mercer's control of non-conforming product, the accuracy of documents supplied after my rejection, and Owen's personal certification. The shipment remains frozen in Mercer's inspection cage. Before we begin, Owen's attorney says, Mercer objects to the participation of a terminated employee who has made unsupported accusations and retained confidential materials. Elise opens her portfolio. Marisol says, Ms. Calder identified the discrepancy. Her participation is required. We reserve all rights concerning her conduct. Reserve them quietly. Serena says, we have limited time. Vincent reviews chain of custody first. Polly's receiving entry records 1 gray courier tote, seal 771962, containing 4 cartons. The total received weight matches Silver Basin's courier invoice. Mercer's original summary shows no unrelated scrap delivered or moved into receiving that morning. Owen's attorney asks how North Star obtained the original summary. Serena looks at him over her glasses. From Mercer Finance. Owen's jaw shifts. Dana sent the documents herself after leaving my house. She had chosen the side she could live on. Vincent places my original photograph on the screen. The gray tote is open behind the evidence card. The seal number shows near the hinge. Silver Basin's packing list sits at the edge of the frame. Then he displays the revised version. The image is cropped around the fitting and gauge. The caption identifies the sample as unverified. Who changed the record? Serena asks. I clarified an uncertain chain of custody, Owen says. Why was the image cropped? To focus on the part. What was wrong with the full image? It included irrelevant background. Marisol looks at me. Ms. Calder, is this the photograph automatically attached to your Monday receiving record? Yes. Was the caption changed after your termination? Yes. Owen's attorney starts to object. Serena raises one finger. You'll have time. Vincent enlarges the brass gauge. My reflection is a pale blur along one edge. Owen's is sharper, warped by the curved metal, but recognizable. White shirt, dark tie, his hand resting on the receiving bench. What were you watching? Serena asks him. Owen leans forward. An inspector performing her job. Did you see where she obtained the fitting? I saw her with a fitting. From the sealed shipment? I did not watch every movement. Paulie appears on video from another room in the North Star building. They interviewed him separately that morning so he would not hear anyone else's answers. He confirms that he cut seal 771962, wheeled the tote directly to my station, and remained there while I opened the first carton. Was there miscellaneous scrap on Ms. Calder's bench? Vincent asks. There was a coffee maker she was threatening with a butter knife. Vincent pauses. Paulie shrugs. No scrap. Did you later move the quarantined cartons? Mr. Mercer instructed me to move them into approved inventory. I refused because Leah's red tag was still active. He had Brent move them. Owen turns toward Brent. Brent's face colors. You said the hold was cleared. It was. The system still showed red. You told North Star in your statement that the sample sent to Tri-County was representative of the lot, Serena says. How did you select it? I didn't. Owen handed it to me in a bag. Did you see it removed from the Silver Basin cartons? No. The room stays quiet long enough for the ventilation fan to become noticeable. Vincent puts the Tri-County photograph beside my original. The clean sample has a deep maker's mark, correct wrench flats, and no crescent cutter skip. That sample matches older authentic Cavendish inventory held by Mercer, I say. I used a piece from that inventory for my approved comparison. Owen's attorney turns to me. You cannot know where the tested sample came from. No, I can know it didn't represent the 11 pieces I inspected. Serena nods once. The precision she forced on me has become useful. Marisol lifts the black case onto the table. She opens it and removes a tamper-evident bag. Inside, the fitting rests on its white evidence card. The violet stripe crosses metal and paper without a break. My initials are still beneath it. She places the bag in front of Owen. Do you recognize this? It resembles the sample Ms. Calder presented. Is it the sample she presented? I can't authenticate something that was removed from Mercer's control. I removed it, Marisol says. You watched me place it in my case. Vincent recorded my custody that afternoon. I sealed it for the laboratory on video. She slides Owen's signed certification beside the bag. You certified the shipment after you saw this sample rejected. Is that correct? I certified based on the documentation available to me. You also certified that the reviewed sample was representative of the shipment. Owen reads his own signature as if it belongs to someone he once trusted. Marisol's voice stays level. Identify the fitting, Mr. Mercer. It may be scrap. She opens the laboratory report. The retained sample is 304 stainless instead of the required 17-4. Its hardness is below specification. The thread profile is out of tolerance. Microscopy shows the manufacturer's mark was applied after the surface finish, not during Cavendish production. Vincent adds the archive response. Cavendish never issued lot CFS-17K41. The prefix belonged to a line that closed 9 months before the date on the certificate. Then come Ray's comparison and the Keystone auction photographs. The same wide thread relief, the same crescent cutter skip, blue bins of rejected commercial unions sold to Desert Asset Recovery at the address later used by Silver Basin Logistics. No single fact carries the conclusion. Together, they leave nowhere for the fitting to go. It is counterfeit. Eric Lawson speaks from the monitor. Mr. Mercer, when did you first suspect the lot was not authentic? Owen looks at the sealed sample, then at me. When Leah showed me the certificate problem. Why didn't you notify North Star? The contract was keeping Mercer alive. That wasn't my question. Owen rubs his clean thumb over the place where the violet lacquer had been. I thought the parts could be replaced before installation. North Star's payment would have given us room to source an authentic lot. You approved the shipment. I expected to stop it downstream if I couldn't replace it. Marisol's expression finally changes. You expected my receiving system to become your warehouse. I expected time to solve a supply problem. You fired the person who refused to lend you that time. Owen looks toward me. I had 42 employees. And 400 counterfeit fittings, I say. His face folds briefly, not into guilt exactly, but recognition. He understands that both numbers are real and one never erased the other. North Star rejects the shipment, suspends Mercer's approved supplier status, and demands reimbursement for testing, engineering review, and emergency replacement sourcing. Serena orders a full reconciliation of every Silver Basin purchase. The decisions are commercial, immediate, and devastating without being theatrical. Outside the room, Brent catches up to me near the elevators. I should have checked, he says. You should have. I believed him. So did I. That is all I have for him. Mercer does not vanish on Monday. It limps. The bank freezes new borrowing. North Star's claim consumes the company's remaining cash. 2 customers pause orders while they review traceability. Owen spends 3 weeks trying to refinance and another 2 negotiating with a regional aerospace manufacturer that wants Mercer's inventory system, customer list, and experienced warehouse staff, but not Owen. North Star asks me to participate in the transition review. I agree on conditions. Every employee uninvolved in the falsification receives an offer with preserved seniority. My personnel record is corrected to state that I was terminated after making a substantiated counterfeit part rejection. Mercer reimburses my lost wages, legal fees, laboratory cost, and the value of the Bridgeport. Owen's equity absorbs the claims before employee benefits are cut again. I do not get everything. Polly loses some accrued vacation in the sale. Dana's retirement stake is nearly wiped out. Mom's old bookkeeping position never returns. The bank takes Owen and Dana's house after Dana files for separation. Dana moves into Mom's beige condominium and spends 2 months speaking to me mostly through grocery lists. Then one Tuesday, she comes to my house with the ceramic boot pencil cup. "You should have this," she says. "It's hideous." She has 2 staplers now. Power has changed her. I let Dana put the boot on my desk. We drink coffee without discussing forgiveness. Owen sends one letter. He says he was wrong to fire me and wrong to change the record. He also says he still doesn't know what else he could have done to save Mercer. I don't answer. An apology that keeps one hand on the excuse is still an apology, but it isn't an invitation. Marisol offers me a contract helping North Star design receiving controls for smaller suppliers. 6 months later, the contract becomes a permanent position. On my first field inspection, I open a sealed bag and set an authentic hydraulic fitting on a white evidence card. The new inspector beside me watches as I check the threads, verify the lot, and reach for a small bottle. "What's the violet for?" she asks. I draw one thin stripe across the first full thread and continue it onto the card. "So the part can't forget where it came from," I say. The line dries unbroken beneath my hand.